Good afternoon. Welcome to the Board of Health meeting of January 8th, 2024. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording this meeting, please notify the chairman. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 signing of the Acts of 2023 extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until March 31st, 2025, this meeting of the Chatham Board of Health is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling 1-508-945-4410. The conference ID is 812-063-844#, or you may join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, Channel 8, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. And now I'll turn the meeting over to Chairman Dr. Noble Handsome.
Thank you. It shall be the policy of this board to conduct its meetings under the open meetings law so as to encourage public participation whenever time permits and as part of agenda item discussions. Okay, we have two items on the agenda for today, and first let's establish that we have a quorum, and as I call your name, will you say present? Carol Boyce.
Present.
Ron Broman.
Yeah.
John Beckley.
Here.
Dick Edwards.
Here.
And Noble Hanson, I'm here, and we have our alternate, Carol Gordon.
Here.
Okay, so we have a quorum. And first on the agenda is something special that's fun for us all, and what I'd like to do is have Ed Sheehan step up to the dais, and I'll come around and we'll make a presentation.
Which one?
Right there.
Which one?
Let's do it right there, yeah. So Ed Sheehan has retired from the Board of Health, and we are going to give him a certificate to award him for his service to the Board of Health. He has served from 2003 to 2023, 2 full decades. He's been chairman in the past, and he's worked very hard at it, and he's been much appreciated. So we have a special certificate of appreciation. It says this certificate is awarded to Edward Sheehan in recognition of valuable contribution to the Town of Chatham Board of Health, signed by the chairman and by Corey Meadows from the Select Board.
Yes.
So that's for you.
Thank
You
you.
can frame that and put it up on your wall.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been a good time.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Ed. To say anything. We have.
Oh. Yeah, we have some video of Ed in the past,
When he was chairperson.
2013.
Who's that guy, huh?
Well, he was a handsome-looking guy back then, huh?
20 years ago?
Ed, I hope you can hear me. I just wanted to say that I really appreciated working with you over the past 20 years. You and I both started, I think, in the town of Chatham around the same time.
Really?
And you were a great chairperson, always very attentive and devoted to the town. So I just want to thank you and much appreciated. We miss you.
I'll be around. Hopefully.
Oh, Ron. Sure.
Yeah, Ed, you and I go way back. I think we have a lot of stories to tell about some of the people that came in here and spoke to us and tried to be abusive to us. And we survived. Yeah. And I really enjoyed working with you all those years. Good. Thank you. So So enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me just
Thank you
say,
very much, Ed.
Ed, just a couple of comments. I haven't been here as long as you were, but I've always noted how you took an active interest in everything that was being discussed. So I applaud you for that. Your comments were productive, and you were a reliable, dedicated member where we would see you every meeting on time. And I think that says something very nice about your dedication.
Ed, I didn't have you next to me very long here, but I enjoyed it, and we all enjoyed your candies every week, every meeting. The peppermints that you would pass out, so thank you.
I'll be around.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have, next on the agenda is discussion and review of nitrogen loading regulation changes. This has been ongoing for a while. I missed the last meeting, but it was discussed, and I'll just review some bullet points that I actually put together for that meeting as to where we are with this thing. We had our public meeting, we put in the new regulation. There were questions about whether the public hearing was legal because of the dates and notice and so forth and so on. So we asked the town attorney, and I'll just summarize what the bullet points were from this meeting of July 4th. And that is, the public hearing is legal. December
4th.
December 4th. The public hearing is legal. Attorney Costello states, quote, "I do not believe that this particular deviation from the statutorily prescribed notice requirement for this rulemaking hearing has been unduly prejudicial or materially detrimental to the public interest such that a court would invalidate the amendments," close quotes. So that was number one. Number two, the regulation from that hearing, from our original hearing, is in effect. Number three, for public relations and community goodwill, a repeat of the public hearing and that process should be considered. That could include better notification, increased time for public hearing, and then a revote. There's no basic change in the Board of Health thinking about this regulation. And number four, Board of Health can take this opportunity of a new hearing to perhaps clean up the language if needed. Also, the board could consider a carve-out for the regulation for two-bedroom homes on less than 20,000 square foot lots. A condition or deed restriction could be added that it could not be used as a short-term rental. Perhaps could consider 10,000 square feet to 20,000 square feet for this carve-out. And five, the board should proceed in a timely manner with this new revote, but no need to hurry. Any new language for the revote will require a careful review by Attorney Costello to make sure the language is acceptable, and the board has the authority to make that change. So that brings us up to today, and for a discussion of the carve-out, and what that would be. The new regulation was that if you converted from Title V to IA technology, you could you may be given by variance one extra bedroom for that change, and unless you were already one bedroom above what you were given by right, which is one bedroom per 10,000 square feet. Then if you switch from Title V to IA, you could get one extra bedroom. And the problem came up with the lots less than 20,000 square feet. And there were complaints about the regulation unfairly affected those small lots. So in my ideas, this is just to throw out the arguments that I've heard for the discussion. I just noted this is the case for a two-bedroom carve-out to the nitrogen loading regulation. Number one, importantly, the only pushback or complaint we have had about this nitrogen loading regulation change is how it affects the two-bedroom, less than 20 square foot lot residences. This is seen as unfairly affecting the little guy. There's the implication that these opponents feel the rest of the regulation concerning larger bedroom size is okay. That's my interpretation from what I've heard. The idea has been put forth that at least 3 bedrooms are needed for a normal home. 3, in another part of the nitrogen loading regulation, it is stated that any vacant lot is allowed 2 bedrooms by right. I don't know how many of those there are in
And
the
that's
town.
if it's not in a Title V defined nitrogen-sensitive area.
Okay.
So a well, water resource area for a well, recharge area.
Okay, thank you. And then I added my thoughts. If a carport were created, the Board of Health could add the condition that the property not be used for short-term rentals, and this would be passed on to a new owner if it's a condition, as I understand it. Correct, Judy? Yeah.
Yes.
If a carve-out is created, the Board of Health could further limit the additional bedroom to 10,000 to 20,000 square foot lots, and exclude those with less than 10,000 square feet, or perhaps less than 12,000 square feet. This would eliminate those especially smaller lots. If a carve-out is created, the Board of Health would still have a very good and helpful change to the regulation, in my opinion. And I put those thoughts together. I had one caveat with the whole thing, and that is, we have the authority to pass the regulation as originally proposed. But since we've decided to have another public hearing, I think we can take the opportunity to sort of rediscuss what we're doing there. So Judy has put in your packet a copy of those thoughts of mine, but then also a copy of the language which would be the carve-out, as I call it. And it's highlighted in red in your packet of the nitrogen loading regulation, and it says, notwithstanding that 2-bedroom properties on lots greater than 10,000 square feet will be allowed a 3rd bedroom with best available nitrogen reducing technology in accordance with Title V. So that's the actual language that we're talking about. So it would allow a 15,000 square foot lot, which by right we would say is allowed, is already 1 bedroom over with a 2-bedroom. This language would allow them to go to 3-bedroom. So
Can we have some discussion about, this just got put in here.
No, this is
strictly your idea,
This
right?
is to start a discussion.
Yeah.
So
but
this
it's-
would be the kind of language that you would be considered to put in there.
right.
And these are just my thoughts to start a discussion, but it
Right.
will be a decision of the whole board.
Right.
So,
Well, I mean, I have some concerns with this.
sure,
Number one, the idea that a 2-bedroom house is abnormal, and that this would, by definition, then allow everybody with a 2-bedroom house to automatically have a 3rd bedroom if they put in an IA. Whereas a person with 3 bedrooms on 22,000 square feet wouldn't be allowed another bedroom, regardless of their circumstances. And it seems to me that saying that one group of homeowners is different because they have 2 bedrooms, and that's a, quote, abnormal house, goes against the idea that in Chatham, we're trying to have an increased number of affordable homes and small homes for people to buy. And if the only reason to add a 3rd bedroom is to, increase the property value or whatever, I wouldn't support that. So, I mean, I would much prefer to see a bylaw or a regulation like what was suggested before, which said that the board in exceptional circumstances would have the right to grant an exemption to this regulation for a property owner who could demonstrate a particular reason why they needed a 3rd bedroom, like the person who came and said that when they bought their house, they expected they were going to be able to add a 3rd bedroom for the parents, and now they can't. That would be potentially a good reason to get an exemption. And in that case, the board would be able to add the provision that the deed would be restricted and the house couldn't be used as a short-term rental. But I just, have a basic problem with saying that there's this class of people who have two-bedroom houses that are different than the class of people who may be on a bigger lot and have three-bedroom houses. And the two-bedroom house person can automatically get a third bedroom, but the three-bedroom house on 25,000 square feet can't have a fourth bedroom.
That's,
They're already one over.
no,
The
well, if they already have a
25,000 feet,
three-bedroom,
they're allowed two. If they already have three,
they couldn't get a fourth.
they couldn't unless we said they could in exceptional circumstances, if they could
So this is
and
the
then they would have to say that it's not a short-term rental.
right.
But to just say we're gonna write a regulation that takes a whole class of people with two-bedroom houses and makes them,
So what you're saying
Privileged.
is that we would do it case by case.
Case
For
by
the two-bedroom
case.
properties, we could
Right.
grant the variance, which is, the variance we grant may be granted, so we always have the discretion to do that. We
I
had
mean, there
one case
might
where we
be
didn't do it.
exceptional circumstances where a person with with three bedrooms on 23,000 square feet or 28,000 square feet might have a very good reason for needing a fourth bedroom.
Yeah.
And if they agreed not to make that house a short-term rental, we might agree to give them a variance.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to open up the whole thing for all the different sizes, because then it would be,
Well, that's where it is now.
yeah, you'd come up against it with all sorts of things. But I think the two-bedroom one, the first thing to me is, those are the complaints we've received. And when the select board, a couple of the members, they specifically thought that the two-bedroom, applying the rule to the two-bedroom properties was unfair or difficult. So this would be a way to address that. I think that's the main thing that I was thinking in those comments. But I understand what you're saying, and,
And the whole idea of
We can
trying
always
to
do it by
preserve
right.
some
We-
small houses in Chatham, and then we're not gonna consider that at all. We'll just let everybody with a two-bedroom house have a third bedroom if they want.
say that again? I didn't.
So we would then say anybody with a two-bedroom house can have a third bedroom if they ask, as long as they put in IA.
They may be given
And so
variance.
there's no
Not-
thought of this board supporting,
The reg says if you have less than 10,000 square feet, you wouldn't be able to.
no, but if you have 12,000 square feet and you have two bedrooms, you would be able to get a third bedroom.
Right.
And so then that means this board is not really supporting the attempt to maintain affordable small houses in Chatham.
Well, I don't really follow that, but, okay, Carol, go ahead.
I just have a question. I don't want to get off on a tangent, but I was wondering how the watershed permit that the town is seeking, if that will affect this regulation at all?
No,
It will not?
no. No, because that was the requirement that everybody in those affected watersheds would have to put an IA in no matter what you had or what you were proposing. Now that goes into effect, this is the only way we would be able to require an IA would be if they were adding an additional bedroom over the square footage we allow, or if they were connecting to sewer, they could be allowed.
Okay. Okay.
I just, in response to Dick, I mean, this was what, the original version of this that we put into effect was, I thought, what the board wanted. So now you're talking about going back on that and kind of going back to the way we had it before and taking things on a case-by-case basis, which is fine.
No, I mean having this regulation that if you have one more bedroom than would be allowed, then would be allowed for new construction, then you cannot have an additional bedroom regardless of IA technology. That would still be there, but the board would
That's always been there.
would retain the right to give a variant in exceptional circumstances.
Okay. I just, I think it's easier to codify it so people know what to expect. I mean, it's hard to be consistent in these cases if you don't have something to follow, but I don't know.
So
Yeah, I
you just-
agree. I mean, I'm not sure what, if I think about it, I'm not sure what criteria I would use. How would I distinguish one from one case from another?
That's the problem.
Right, how would
That's
you
the problem.
Distinguish exceptional, exceptional reason.
But, okay, so, other comments. Actually, my thoughts that I put down was in response to John's question at the end of the December 4th meeting, you know, what's the thinking of this carve-out? Why would we do it? What's the rationale behind it? That's why I tried to put this together to start a discussion, basically. Any other comments from,
Well, again, my thought is, in the great majority of cases, there would not be a variance issued. It would have to truly be an exceptional reason, like the person who bought their house a year ago with the expectation that their grandparents were gonna be able to come into that house, and we would say, well, if you put a deed restriction on, then in this exceptional circumstance, we would approve it. But in the great majority of situations, we would not.
so it
have
would
to
be like
truly-
putting a grace period in.
No, well, no, but there could be other reasons, you know.
But don't you think everyone would think they had an exceptional reason? I don't know, not to play devil's advocate, but,
All right,
everyone that
so-
comes
so
up
I
would
think
say,
it'd be
I think, yeah.
So we feel then that two-bedroom houses are, a three-bedroom house is an abnormal house then. I mean, according, you know, that anything under two bedrooms is abnormal.
Those were just,
And we should just automatically approve anything, any two-bedroom house that wants a third bedroom, as long as they have at least 10,000 square feet of land.
my understanding of what the concern from the select board and some of the people that spoke at that meeting was that they feel like, you know, people come to town and purchase a two-bedroom house, it's affordable. They understood or understand that they could possibly add a third bedroom in the future. It's a way for them to grow their property, grow their family. I think that's what we're trying to allow for here. I don't think we're trying to allow for somebody with a larger property, already has 3 or 4 bedrooms to add on if they can't meet the nitrogen loading regs. I mean, how do we decide that someone who has a 2-bedroom cottage on their property and they want to have their in-laws live there? I mean, how do we decide whether 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms is enough for their in-laws to live in that house? It seems a little arbitrary, and that everyone is going to argue that they need that extra bedroom if they think they can make their case.
Well, I think that might be the case, but if the majority of these requests are so that they can convert their house into a short-term rental, we would resolve that
That's always been the
problem
concern,
by putting
yep.
that deed restriction on. I mean, it's a lot of money to add a third bedroom and a bathroom and everything, you know, unless you're thinking of making it a rental. So I don't know if there would be that many people coming in and just asking to add bedrooms to their house. But maybe you're right. I mean, if you want to make a two-bedroom house a special case.
The case that came before us, they had purchased the property before our regulation went into effect.
They've been living there, yes.
Right, so they had purchased the property prior to the regulation with the intent of expanding. So in that case, I could see giving an exception. But going forward, we need some type of, whether we go back to our original regulation and forget about the lot size. But I think that particular case, they should get the variance based on the fact they bought it prior with the intent of expanding.
Right. And they would get that with this particular
Right, but even
amendment.
without it, we could give them the variance, even with our original.
which you didn't, but when they came to us, so
But I'm saying we could.
we could, yeah, you could.
Well, you could resolve that problem by keeping the regulation as it stands and changing a couple of words in it, saying, in general, no, an additional bedroom would not be allowed. However, the board retains
The right to.
the right to make an exception.
In regard to the two-bedroom
Well,
less than
no, and any,
20,000.
just.
No, I don't,
saying
I don't.
2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, 6 bedrooms.
I personally don't want to open the whole thing up to every single one that's over the by right, more than one bedroom over by right, and then be having to discuss and, go through every single one. I think there's a reason that in the complaints, only complaints we've had have been these two-bedroom homes, addressing something that focuses on them.
But this is an anecdote. This is totally anecdotal. This is, a couple of people have complained, and you're gonna base the whole regulation
and the
on a
select-
couple of people that happen to have formally complained. And there might be a lot of other people out there that are not happy about this.
When we
And
have our
who's
open
gonna have a 3-bedroom house on 26,000 square feet and wanna add, and if they have a big family and they've got a lot of grandchildren and they wanna have a 4th bedroom, and we're gonna say, no, you absolutely can't, because we're only gonna do this for 2-bedroom houses. But if they can't make it into a short-term rental, because we would add that deed restriction, I see nothing wrong with allowing an IA technology on 28,000 square feet to put a 4th bedroom on, if they wanna spend the money and build a 4th bedroom and they can't rent it.
Well, I think okay, so the issue, as I see the issue, it's whether we keep our original regulation, which we can do,
Yeah.
or whether we try to do something about the two-bedroom, small homes, adding one more bedroom. Because that's where the complaints have been, that's what the select board was concerned about. But I don't see backtracking and then opening the whole thing up from top to bottom again. I wouldn't be excited about that, but.
Can we can we put a deed restriction on about, can we really tell someone that they can't do a short-term rental on their property?
My understanding from town council is that we could do that.
You can
Yep.
do that, okay.
So, I mean, if we did that and we went back to our original nitrogen loading regulation, there is language on variances in here already, on section 6. Variances from this regulation may be granted by the Board of Health only if the applicant demonstrates to the satisfaction of the board that literal enforcement of this regulation would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioners, would deprive the landowner of any use of the lot in question. Proves that the board that the installation of an on-site subsurface sewage disposal system or systems would not measurably contribute nitrate to the ground, et cetera. Provide the board with detailed floor plans. That's just the procedure. But there is that section that they can demonstrate to the satisfaction of the board that literal enforcement of this regulation would involve substantial hardship, et cetera.
Right, so we've always had that,
Yeah.
it's may grant a variance.
it's-
We can if we, or not.
It's a matter of interpretation, I guess, to that.
But, go ahead, Karen.
What if we keep the original regulation, but add that for lots less than 20,000 square feet, the board may grant a variance for an additional bedroom if IA technology is used?
Less than 20,000?
Less than
Well, we
20,000,
haven't-
Well, let's say 10 to
already-
20,000, so, or less than, okay, we're less
but less than 20,
than 20,000 may grant. Well, that's-
may.
But that's what's in it now.
Right, but
But-
but this is saying that for 10 to 20, you can
Have a third bedroom.
have a 3rd bedroom. This is saying you may.
Yeah.
You're not automatically giving it to
Or
them.
will be allowed.
Right, that's saying they will be allowed.
Okay. So not, would you just, you mean you would just change the language instead of saying will be allowed, you'd say may?
May be
May,
allowed,
just change that word to may?
so that.
Why are we saying less than 20,000 square feet?
Because that's where the complaints have
That's
been,
where
and
the
that's what the.
complaints-
I know, but that's, again, this is anecdote. You're basing our whole decision based on 2 people
No,
coming
I
and
think,
saying.
I've listened.
Because one of the Board of Selectmen said this? The select board?
I've listened to their arguments, and there's some sympathy to that, I have. I think that's what it is.
So this, you really believe this needs to be a special case and nobody else with a bigger house under any circumstance should be granted an extra bedroom? So if you have 26,000 square feet and 3 bedrooms, and you come in here and you say, my son and daughter-in-law,
Yeah.
you know, lost it, they want to move in with us, and we need another bedroom, and we say, no, absolutely not, we can't do that, we can only do it if you have less than 20,000 square feet.
Well, I think, I agree with the regulation that we passed, keeping it the same, and consider whether we alter somehow how we're handling less than 20,000 square feet. That's what I think, and I guess, Carol, you kind of feel that way? And I guess the question is there a way to put in some kind of language where we have special consideration for the less than 20,000 square foot, 2-bedroom lot in granting a variance? I don't know how that works exactly, but, and not make it a firm rule, or just, as Carol said, change the will be allowed to may be allowed, probably always the case anyway, but.
You can do
yeah.
that and leave the 20,000 square feet out of it, and just the board can make that decision on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, I don't want to open the whole thing
I have a
up again.
big problem with codifying that 20,000 square foot or less lots are a special case.
So if we
And
do
we don't
that,
want any small house.
But they
small
basically
cheap
keep the regulation we passed as is, basically, then.
The one
Why
we
would-
passed
why would
before
we-
with the word may, or, you know. and-
so the language there now says existing properties that already exceed this requirement will not be allowed an extra bedroom. I could change that to say,
However,
may not be allowed
in
an,
exceptional circumstances, the board may grant a
I
variance.
could say may not be allowed an extra bedroom, and add some language,
Or in
if this is what
general,
the board wants.
will not be granted an extra bedroom, however, the board retains
I'm-
the right to grant a variance in exceptional circumstances.
I mean, I feel like we're going back to our original.
Yeah, I feel
loading
like
regulation,
we're backtracking the whole thing.
Which
And-
is fine.
And we are.
We did.
And the
We are.
point of having another hearing and viewing language is to basically just make sure we had a legal hearing and to pass the regulation as we had before. And then it sort of opened up the possibility of making a change. But what I'm hearing is maybe we shouldn't make any changes or make any special carve-outs, at least from Dick's standpoint. Carol says that we could change the language, that's the new language specific to less than 20,000 from will be allowed to may be allowed, to give us some discretion. But I wouldn't want to backtrack and then just sort of water down the whole thing and then be open to discussion every single size. That's, to me, is backtracking. I really wouldn't want to do that, but it's up to the whole board. But any other comments? John, you were asked about the, somehow going over the rationale for what we're doing, that it wasn't clear, and I understand that. That's true.
I'm still not clear.
Yeah.
And
it's-
that's why I'm wrestling with this. This is not clear to me.
You mean
This is like if this and this and then that, and then that goes across purposes with the other goal. I don't have a clear sense of what we should do.
But
I just have to say that.
we passed the regulation from before. We had the regulation. You
Right.
don't disagree with that?
No.
No. And then, but so what you don't understand is why we're picking out the 2-bedroom less than 20 and making some case for that.
Yeah.
Well, it may be that nobody agrees to do that. I mean, I've thrown out the arguments that I see, and there maybe there isn't. I think, like I fall back, those are where the complaints came from. Dick says they're anecdotal. That's what the select board was concerned about, and I think there may be an argument there, but it's hard to do. Ron, do you have any thought on this, or?
I think we're opening up another box by doing it. I think we're opening up another box by doing that. I think,
By carving out the two,
yeah.
but the original regulation.
What we did
Yeah,
seems to be I mean, we haven't had anybody come in front of us or anything like that
well, we've had one come in front of us,
that wanted the bigger.
one of the
want something, I mean, they're living in a 3-bedroom and they want a
No,
4-bedroom?
no, we haven't had that.
No,
We've had the
I think
2-bedroom
we're-
come in front of us.
Well, I think no one has come because they know
Right.
Yeah,
that
and I
we
think
are,
we're,
our regulation as it is right now is restrictive of that.
We've,
I mean,
we've
you
had the
could go
one,
back and revoke the change that was made that said, existing properties that already exceed the requirement of section 5.1 and 5.2 will not be allowed an extra bedroom. That was what we did back in July.
right.
Right now, without that, what the old regulation said was, for residential application, the board may allow by variance one additional bedroom over the number allowed by section 5.1, 5.2, with the use of innovative alternative on-site subsurface sewage disposal systems, providing that said lot is not in a nitrogen-sensitive area. We would go back to the old regulation, and then the board could not automatically allow the extra bedroom, could look at them on a case-by-case basis, as Dick is suggesting. It's up to you. I mean, as I said, I put this in because you were concerned about these large houses adding extra bedrooms on small lots. We could change how we allow that, being more restrictive and adding, deed restrictions to short-term rentals, et cetera. It's totally up to you.
I mean, I'm not in favor of backtracking on the regulation that we wrote for the more than 2-bedroom places. I'm not, going backwards. So, but whether we should carve out the 2-bedroom and make a special case, I think that's an open question. What do you think about Carol's suggestion that instead of saying the 2-bedroom lots on greater than 10,000, that means 10 to 20,000, will be allowed a 3rd bedroom, instead you say may be allowed, and then that gives us discretion to approve it or not approve it. That would be different than the other ones. Just because they're small, that's where we've had some pushback. We still totally within our power what to do.
But I don't think that answers Dick's concern about other, and John's to a certain extent, about other properties.
Well, I don't think
3-bedroom
John's
houses
not
or
concerned about
4-bedroom.
the bigger ones, as I understand it. It's just it's just a 2-bedroom.
Right.
Dick says, why don't we discuss all of them? I don't really want to open the whole thing up to backtrack on our original regulation, because we were all unanimous that that's the way we wanted to go. So I leave that intact. And to me, the question is, do we handle 2-bedrooms separately? Do we just leave that whole issue out of it? Do we change it from will be allowed the 3rd bedroom, the 2-bedroom ones will be allowed, to the 2-bedrooms may be allowed, and that gives us, as Dick says, the discretion to do it or not do it, but still you're sort of carving out the 2-bedrooms. We're not going to apply that to everything up and down, because then we'll have the discussion all the time. But to me, that's,
I mean, I think if you do that, you can still have the discussion on bigger houses as well, because it does say, there are variants
we could,
that are
we could.
allowed. We chose not to have that discussion on this particular case that we denied, because it says existing properties that already exceed their requirements will not be allowed an extra bedroom. We could say may not be allowed an extra bedroom and add the language that,
Yeah, I think that's
Carol.
backtracking on what we did, but
it's backtracking a little, but I think that's
Gives us-
that's what we're doing anyways, if
it gives us
that's
the
what
right.
in this discussion is about.
is the implication that for smaller properties, 2 bedrooms, going to 3 bedrooms on, say, 15,000 square feet, that we would not require a deed restriction?
Say that again?
That we would then not require a deed restriction
Of what kind?
if they go from 2 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms on 15,000 square feet?
They would be required a deed restriction.
That's routine, right?
That's-
And there would, and,
I mean, that's a condition
According to
you
what we-
always put on it.
yeah, and according to what we're saying,
We would require that they would not be able to convert to short-term rentals.
And a deed restriction.
those are
You
two
could do
separate conditions.
separate
Yeah.
things.
Well, that's what I mean, the short-term rental restriction.
Oh.
Because, that, I think that's an important consideration, is if we take all the two-bedroom houses in Chatham, add a third bedroom, make them all short-term rentals, we're gonna have a very large number of short-term rentals in Chatham, and it's gonna, I know from experience in my own neighborhood that a three-bedroom house, with 8 people in it from April through New Year's Eve, is using a lot more water, creating a lot more nitrogen than the average two-bedroom house, and not to mention congestion and traffic and all the other issues that Chatham is dealing with. So that, again, this whole thing isn't just about nitrogen. If it was just about nitrogen, then it would be hard to justify any of this if you're going to put in an IA system.
So you're suggesting adding a restriction, no short-term rental, anytime we add the extra bedroom converting from Title V to IA technology. Is that what you were saying?
That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, so that's your
Yes,
thought.
that would
That,
be-
we
that
can
would
take
be-
that on a case-by-case basis as well. That's what we've been doing as far as deed restrictions. That's not in here anywhere.
Well, we haven't done that
No.
to date.
No, but I mean
But I
any
think
kind
that
of deed
was-
restriction.
that
Right.
that would.
But it could be part, yeah, it's not codified here, but could be part of our.
Why don't do you want me to come up with like 2 scenarios, kind of more what Dick's saying, maybe more what Carol's saying, and let you see that and look at it and see what you think? Unless you want to take a vote and tell me which way you want to go.
I just have a problem.
I mean, I
just
think I
saying
have an idea what.
that pro forma, we're
saying.
going to approve every request for a third bedroom on a 20,000, on a 15,000 square foot lot, that we'll just approve every one of them.
retain some
And they
kind of
don't have to tell us
discretion or-
why, they don't have to have any reason.
Yeah, some kind of language where
I
it's-
wouldn't want to do that. I would want to say, okay, that if you're going to do that, then there has to be a reason, you have to provide a reason for why you want to do it, and we'll put a deed restriction and prevent that from becoming a short-term rental.
So you're basically agreeing with what Carol said, that instead of saying will be allowed, may be allowed, and we
May be
up to
allowed.
our
Right,
discretion, we
right,
discuss it,
right,
we decide.
right.
I think that's a hard decision to
Yeah,
make.
I agree with
We would
that.
set precedents and stuff, but I mean,
Right.
What I have a problem
That's
with
the way
is
around.
telling a person with 3 bedrooms on 25,000 square feet that they're a different case and we can't even,
Well, yeah.
and we're not gonna, we're gonna handle them differently.
I hear what you're saying. Every time we put in a regulation, though, there are gonna be kind of a little bit winners and losers, there's always a crossover time, but, okay.
So I'm just wondering with the deed restriction, does that mean that when we approve an extra bedroom, we're putting a deed restriction on saying you cannot do a short-term rental? So we'll have no more short-term rentals in Chatham for any new bedrooms? Is that it?
No.
What does that mean then?
You don't have to put that on every additional bedroom. Like if someone has a 40,000 square foot lot and they want to add a 5th bedroom, I wouldn't, in the past, we would allow that under this regulation with an IA, but I wouldn't think that you would want to make that a deed restricted, no short-term rental. Because you're right, if we do that, then every time you add a bedroom, you're gonna require that,
But we're not providing a variance.
right.
Somebody that has a 40,000 square foot lot
That's
with
true.
3
That wouldn't even-
bedrooms to add a
it
4th
would come
bedroom.
to you, but
That's not a
it's-
variance. They can do whatever they want. They can make it a hotel if they want. It's
It
not,
still comes to you, but
So it's, if you
It
get
still
the
meets
one
the
extra
regulation.
bedroom above which you get by right, one bedroom per 10,000 square foot, going from Title V to IA. In that situation, you could allow them the extra bedroom,
Yeah.
but we could add no short-term rental for that situation.
Yeah.
Because they're above. And so your concern is the lack of short-term rentals in Chatham?
Oh, no, not at all. No,
I would like to see the growth of short-term rentals in Chatham, I mean.
no, I was just concerned about telling people how they can use their property.
Right, well, that's absolutely a concern, but that's what we're in the business of doing that.
I know.
so it's hard.
Thank you.
So what I hear now is that Judy could make up a couple scenarios, the sort of the Carol Boyce thing, and then something a little stronger like Dick was talking about. Dick, are you satisfied with what Carol said, if we just,
Change
for the
from will
two-bedroom,
to
say
may.
may, and so we have discretion,
Yeah.
but just that discretion, you know.
I'm just still a little uneasy about limiting it to 20,000 square foot lots.
Yeah. Well, I don't personally want to go all the way up, because then we're just backtracking on the whole thing, but, John, any clarity here?
Not yet, no, but I think if Judy brings forward a couple of clear choices,
It's always easier to look at something in writing.
then I would say, as part of that, Judy, handicap, what are the, what's the benefit, what's the downside, what's the upside of these two choices? Because,
Pros and cons.
yeah, kind of the pros and the cons. In my mind, another wild card factor, and I don't know what it should play, if at all, is if we need more affordable housing, why are we getting rid of two-bedroom homes?
Well, I would argue it's,
Yeah, that's why I think
Yeah.
we shouldn't just automatically grant a third bedroom to everybody who has a two-bedroom house. I think there needs to be a reason.
I mean, if you
If
want,
you have a big family, and you need a third bedroom, that's one thing, but it does, it takes a
Oh.
small, inexpensive house and makes it a larger, much more expensive house.
I mean, there's
so-
two sides. Like I said, the selectmen were concerned that people were buying two-bedroom houses with that's what they could afford, with the understanding that a few years after establishing themselves and they could add a third bedroom.
that's another valid perspective.
So
And what about the two-bedroom homes that are being sold and torn down, and three-bedroom homes are being built
right.
for short-term rentals?
Well, that would be, I guess that would be where we would look at it as a may, and,
okay, yeah. All right, so maybe Judy can put forward a couple of alternate scenarios. Ron, did you have any other?
No, I
You just
think-
said,
I'd rather see something Judy does, that way I can see it in
we're
black
kind
and
of
white.
opening Pandora's
it's-
box, changing the original regulation, is what I heard from you.
I mean, I think
Okay,
I
so-
have a general idea
Then
of,
we can put it on the agenda for the next meeting, and we can continue to talk about it.
Are we going to set a date for the open meeting?
Say that again?
well, I don't think we
Oh,
can
okay.
until we have something that we've agreed on, so I don't want to.
Yeah, because I think that, I agree with that, and then we can take our time to talk our way into a consensus. That's what we've always been able to do somehow, amazingly.
Do you want to take comments?
Yeah, well, and then, so that's what we'll do, and we'll put it on the agenda in the next meeting, if we have time, if we have space.
Is it possible that when you put this thing together, that it get distributed to us
Before the packet.
early, so we have a chance to?
I think that's a good idea.
To consider it before we get to the meeting? Because this,
Sure.
this thing on the red, I just saw this at noontime today. So that's kind of a problem.
They usually come out Thursday or Thursday, I guess, but if you
Right.
can get them out early in the week.
Yeah, I'll
possible.
do my
That gives
best to
people
put something
time to
together
study it. I think that's a good idea.
early next
By
week.
email.
By email,
by
yeah.
email.
I would say early next week would be the earliest I could do it.
Okay, all right, good. Then, is there any public discussion on this topic? Up here.
I don't know if that's, I don't know if that's.
Hi, Mark Sangiolo, architect, West Harwich, Mass. Just I'm here for the item that's on the schedule, but just something related to the discussion. I mean, I like to live in a world of clarity, and all these regulations from all these different boards are just getting more complex and more complex. May be given a variance, extraordinary circumstances. These are very difficult things. If what you want is to reduce the short-term rental and then also have a positive impact on the septic systems, just make the trade. Say you can have the one, if you're coming in for a variance, not that one extra bedroom that's not in the allowed by right in your thing now, just say you can do that if you codify it with the no short-term rentals and upgrade your septic system to the new systems. That's something everyone can understand. It will have a positive impact on everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
David.
Yes.
David Clark. Yeah, the more I sit here and listen to you, the board deliberate this topic, the more troubled I am about the whole process. One board member characterizing a complaint as anecdotal, when, to me, when I read your regulation and listen to your discussion, your whole rationale for passing this in the first place was anecdotal. I haven't heard any or seen any information regarding how adding a bedroom is a detriment to the town of Chatham, other than speculation. We had one board member say that a house is rented in his neighborhood from April to New Year's with 8 people. I mean, either he's lying, or he's embellishing, or show us the facts. I talked to a number of real estate agents over the last several months, and all of them heard that same statement last month or the month before, and all of them said, I don't know where he's getting his numbers. They pray for 10-week season, they'll settle for 8. To have a house rented for 8 months out of the year at double the capacity is, if you could find one, I'd be surprised. So getting back to supporting your regulation, I'd like to see where you came up with all this stuff. You talk about water use at the previous meeting. Show me the numbers where adding an extra bedroom has put Chatham over the top as far as water use. Personally, the numbers I've seen over the years, it's from irrigation. It has nothing to do with the bedroom. It's people keeping their lawns green all year round. So I'd love to see the numbers on the rentals, so you can have something to hang your hat on, rather than what it sounds like. It's anecdotal and speculation. And so water use numbers, love to see them. That nearly all the extra bedrooms you've approved over the years are for seasonal rentals. Love to see that, those numbers, if they exist. That's all I gotta say. Comments regarding what's so special about a 2-bedroom house and why you would single that out. I would ask the board to contact Massachusetts Department of Social Services to see how they feel about a small family that have a son and a daughter in a 2-bedroom house. What does this Department of Social Services say about that? You'd probably be surprised by the answer, that it's probably unacceptable. So we're not talking about big families. We're talking about small families that are blessed to have a son and a daughter, and they can no longer live in a 2-bedroom house. And the way the real estate prices are in Chatham, if you could afford to get into Chatham in a 2-bedroom house, it's very difficult to step up to a 3. And in a lot of cases, it's probably much easier to put a small addition on the house to get that extra bedroom. So keep that in mind. As far as the bigger houses, probably doesn't make a difference to a lot of these people, but 2-bedroom, I think, is a critical issue in this town. A 2-bedroom house is not a single-family home, because basically you can only have one child. Gone are the days when like my family, 6 people living in a 3-bedroom house. It just doesn't happen anymore. And that's not the reality of not just Chatham, but the whole country. You don't pile kids into 1 bedroom. It just doesn't happen anymore. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Litchfield.
64 Middlesex Road. Thank you, Dr. Hanson, members of the board. Bill Litchfield on behalf of Rich and Jill Tepper, who, as you know, have a two-bedroom house on a 16,000 square foot lot, not in a nitrogen-sensitive area, which was rejected by you, that the property that they purchased comports with what Ms. Boyce was talking about. They purchased it a little over a year ago with the expectation of a third bedroom. We appreciate the time that this board is devoting to this issue, which is a complex one. Whether there is a variance possible for the Tepper property, it can be done in any number of ways, and I think what Dr. Hanson suggested is one option. Ms. Boyce had some other ones, and I know Judy is going to work on appropriate language. I think the board should have the discretion to grant a variance when it's appropriate and not in a nitrogen-sensitive area. I understand the concern about differentiating between a two-bedroom and others, and clearly the issue that's been raised by Dr. Edwards about a 16,000 square foot lot versus a 28,000 square foot lot, that's a hard decision for you to make. I think you can find a way to go forward. Two other points that aren't specific to the Tepper property. It is, as you know, a nitrogen loading regulation. I appreciate your concern about water use. I appreciate your concern about short-term rentals. I question whether that should be under the rubric of a nitrogen loading regulation. Maybe it's time for a separate regulation to deal with those sorts of issues. And as to the affordable housing issue that Dr. Edwards raised, which is important, others of you have mentioned that, but it is true, as Mr. Clark said, that a three-bedroom house is not a luxury for a family. And if you have a couple or a single person who raises a family or proposes to raise a family, a three-bedroom house is not exorbitant in terms of the numbers. But again, I'm recognizing that you're going to be coming back. I think that some revision of section 6.3 is in order, and I know Judy is going to work on a draft, and I'll be happy to try to help her as best I can. And again, we thank you.
So, Mr. Litchfield, let me just ask one thing. So if, Mr. Litchfield, if there was more discretion with the two-bedroom, less than 20,000 square foot lots, are you okay with the rest of the larger bedroom properties?
Yeah, I
in
don't
the
see any
regulation?
particular need for an 8-bedroom house. My personal opinion, I mean, I'm here representing the Teppers, and they've got a specific issue.
You have
They'd
two
like,
hats.
they'd like to have a 3-bedroom house on the 16,000 square foot lot, not in a nitrogen sensitive area, having purchased it a year ago for that purpose. I'm of two minds, Dr. Hanson. It's a nitrogen loading regulation, the goal of which is to reduce nitrogen. And you know the numbers that a standard two-bedroom system generates more nitrogen than an IA for 3. So in that regard, one could argue, well, maybe we should have, go from 7 to 8. Yeah, in theory, but in reality, no. There's just no need for that. I think some discretion on the lower number of bedrooms is more warranted than in the higher number. And again, if the board retains the discretion that I know it's capable of exercising appropriately, there's a difference between putting a house out in the northeast section of town, which is not a nitrogen-sensitive area, from putting it south of the Indian Hill well. I mean, or any nitrogen-sensitive area, any well, what's the word, Judy? Contributing zone for the wells.
Okay, all right, good. Well, thanks.
Thank you.
And then, anyone else in person? If not, online?
We have one.
One person online? Who was that?
Charlie?
Oh, yes, I'm online.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Charles O'Connell, and I own a home at 53 Shane Drive in Chatham. It's a 2-bedroom home. And I've appeared before your board in late August, early September, when I first found out about about this new regulation and expressed my concerns at the time. Upon giving this a lot of thought, first I'd like to say I'm glad you're reconsidering the regulation, particularly with respect to the issue on small homes. For all the reasons that have been mentioned, I think it's deserving of reconsideration. But I also wonder if you really have, with this regulation in general, are really addressing the underlying problem. After listening to all the conversation, both at your board and in the select board, it seems as though that the problem that you're trying to resolve is the stress on nitrogen and water and traffic and other implications of short-term rental activity increase. And bedrooms are not the direct cause of that. It's a vehicle to achieve that. But the direct cause is the increase in that short-term rental activity. And there's two ways to deal with that. Well, one is through the short-term rental regulations, and the second would be a possible restriction, deed restriction on any bedroom that the Board of Health would approve that is not available to the homeowner by right. Those two things would really address the problem and without restricting bedroom expansion by those homeowners, regardless of the number of bedrooms they have, without restriction their ability to add a bedroom that would not add to short-term rentals, which it wouldn't if you imposed a deed restriction on that bedroom expansion. So my question really is: do you feel as though that you've exhausted the ability to deal with this underlying problem with your short-term rental regulations by perhaps decreasing the allowable occupants or reducing maybe the number of months that they're allowed to rent their properties, and have you considered that you can perhaps get at the problem more directly by just imposing a deed restriction preventing short-term rentals for any expansion of bedrooms, whether it's 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, or 4-bedroom, that can't be done by right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the short-term rental, I just said the short-term rental regulation is ramping up.
You're not turned on.
You're not turned on.
The short-term rental regulation is ramping up, so that's a work in progress. So we sort of await to get more information there, but thank you for your comment. Okay.
After listening to these comments, the architect and the last comment, I'm impressed by their reasoning, and it seems that it might be very straightforward for the board to simply change the regulation to a regulation that states that any variance issued to allow an additional bedroom would require a deed restriction, eliminating that home from being converted to a short-term rental. So we then have a short-term rental regulation that limits the occupancy, and enforcing that is going to be complex without having something dealing with the number of cars in the parking lot or whatever. It's going to be hard to do that, but we have that. And then if we deal with the ever continuing increase in the number of short-term rentals by, as much as we can do, saying that any variance for an additional bedroom would require a deed restriction. That would be very straightforward, very simple, wouldn't require any people to present extraordinary circumstances. That would just be the regulation, and I would certainly vote for that.
Add that as a choice.
Yep,
Yeah,
got it.
okay, good. All right, well, that was helpful. So, all right, so we'll come up as an agenda item. Judy will put together some more things in writing. It's always helpful to be able to look at something, and we can kind of go from there. So this was, I think, productive. All right, so that's our two items on the agenda, and I'll just kind of go through a couple of things quick and then open it up some more. Old business. Judy, is there any follow-up on the Mill Hill Road situation with the Mass Department of Environmental Pollution?
I am awaiting word from them. I did reach out to them last week, and she said something is forthcoming. They just getting through the holiday season.
But we've been awaiting word for like 6
Yeah.
months, right?
She,
She sounds like, okay.
yeah,
That's all we can do.
I expect
Moment, I
something in
guess.
writing from them very shortly.
Okay, and at some point, we'd probably have to move forward and close that loop, I think. Second thing, short-term rental follow-up, and Judy maybe can comment on the website and the position, number of people registered, and plan for public awareness of the whole thing?
Well, the public awareness campaign, and we are,
Sir?
He's coming back.
the short-term rental registration is proceeding. We have also are in the process of the hiring of someone, the interview process, and that's really all I can say at this point. And I think, I'm not sure the total number, there's probably upwards to 400 or 500 people who have registered so far.
Excellent.
So, but we are very far behind in processing those because of manpower, so I'm hoping that's gonna change.
The website is working okay?
Websites, yeah, you mean the online
Registration
registration?
online?
Yeah, seems to be working great.
Okay,
So-
and then, so, I don't know if you're able to say, but are you actually interviewing people for the position? Has it reached that stage yet, or no?
I can't
Can't
comment.
say. Can't comment, okay.
You could comment, but we'd
Are
have to kill you.
are you?
We're in the
hopeful or
process
hopeful
of,
about getting a person?
we're in the
Any
process.
timeframe for when that person might come on board?
I can't say.
Okay.
I've been
But I think
told
we've
that
always
this is
said
a
that,
confidential process, and,
this has
yeah.
been a, we're ramping it up, and this first year is going to be a work in progress.
Yep,
But I think we want to make sure that we have the public realize that they are going to have to register. I mean, it's going to come.
yeah.
Okay.
It's moving forward,
All
that's
right,
all I
good,
can say
great.
at this point. Hopefully at the next meeting, I'll have a better update for you.
Good, okay. And then just outline what's going on in the future here. We have a training session, seminar on, the science and technology of septic systems. Emily Michelle Olmsted from Barnstable County is very knowledgeable here and is coming in with a slide
I think
presentation.
she's gonna be online.
She'll be online, but the whole session will be devoted to like a training session, and we can ask questions and all that. So I think that'll be pretty helpful, at least for me it will be.
When is that?
February 5th.
And I was going to also invite, obviously, the public and some members of the Conservation Commission as well,
Right.
which I need to do.
And,
So they can, because it's a topic that they're very interested in as well.
Might be some realtors and engineers or whatever.
Yep. But it is going to be an online presentation, so, but we will be here.
Okay, February 5th. And then we have, the select board have asked us to evaluate and make a recommendation of a pesticide home rule petition that someone has brought forward to the select board. That person is going to make a presentation to us at our next meeting, and we'll have the whole home rule petition document to look at, and then we'll have a chance to ask questions and figure this thing out. It's not simple.
It wouldn't be a Board of Health regulation, it would be a,
It's a recommendation for the select board that
To move
will
forward.
decide what to do or not. They put a time frame of a warrant for the, this town meeting, which means something has to be done by February, which is difficulty, I think, considering the complexity of this document, but we'll talk about that. And then might be another thing to get out early in the week, so people have a chance to really look at it, because there's a lot to look at there.
Okay.
If we can get that out early in the week. And it's a home rule petition, which means it's a recommendation, as I understand it, goes to the state government. They change the rules, it comes back to town, and gives the town the ability to do things with pesticide restrictions. But it's a document that also says exactly what the restrictions are.
Orleans just passed this, or they're going this route. Pesticides are regulated by the state. There's a division of pesticides and it's been in court. Precedent is that local communities cannot regulate pesticide use because it's done at the state level. This is an organization trying to go around that by getting towns to have this home rule petition. It goes up to the state. They say, we want this, we want to do this in our town. And then you're asking, I guess my understanding is you're asking the state to overrule or to rule in our favor to allow us to do it. So it has been passed in Orleans. I can't answer a lot of questions as I haven't
Yeah,
delved
it's
into
complicated
it
and as a.
completely.
But as a Board of Health issue,
We can do it.
we would need to think about whether we would want to support that.
Absolutely.
I mean, an absolute ban doesn't make any sense to me. As a requirement that they follow the instructions on the package insert for all fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides makes a lot more sense than saying no pesticides, no herbicides. That doesn't make any sense.
They're required to comply with those stipulations anyhow.
Right.
It's a process. What we have to do
They
is.
don't.
I'll get that
We're gonna
information out to you.
get the document itself and look at it, see what they're asking, get the presentation, see what they're asking for. But yes, it's complicated and, you know, that's a whole nother question, but we'll address that when it comes.
Has
when
any
it comes.
town done this all the way through and has implemented?
Not that I know of. Orleans is sending
They've
it,
sent it to the state, but it has not come back.
No, but it's still in that early process.
Yes.
from what I understand, yes.
Okay, and-
Don't they also say that the septic systems put most of the nitrogen in the ground, more so than fertilizer and irrigation?
It's about
There was
pesticides.
Right,
not a
90%.
Well, we're not talking about fertilizer, though. This is pesticides,
Pesticides.
so
Different.
fertilizers are, nitrogen, phosphorus, those.
Have we
kinds of things.
tested our water supply for the presence of herbicides and pesticides? Is it a problem? Or is it a small group
All the
of
wells are
people
tested for a
who
whole
want
range
to
of
make it a
volatile
problem?
organic compounds, which would include pesticides and,
And we're not finding harmful levels of
I would
pesticides and
think with-
herbicides in our public water supply.
well, these are
I
all
think
questions
that
for
this
the,
is not the,
come up.
I think we need, because this isn't on the agenda, but
Yeah.
I think that you can ask the person who's gonna make the presentation to you some of these questions.
But we'll try and get this thing out early in the week so people can read it, because there are a whole bunch of questions. It's complicated, it's not simple, and there's lots of specific little statements in there, so it's worthy of study. But I agree with concerns about it that Dick put forward. The other thing that's coming down is, we've had people bring up with us the idea of lead in airport aviation fuel at the Chatham Airport, and asked, we put it on the agenda, and that may come on the agenda later. We need to get little information from the Airport Commission, and I'm sure there's all sorts of rules. They have FAA and all that. So that's just something that's out there. We need to do more homework, and then,
That'll be on the
That'll be
agenda,
on an agenda.
probably later in the winter, early spring.
okay, and so then,
That's it?
okay, and then anyone else have question or comment, old business, new business? Okay, and then from the public, anybody have a comment or an issue or something they want to,
Don't see any.
okay. All right,
Minutes.
nothing else?
Minutes.
Oh, minutes, yeah, we can approve the minutes of,
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes of December 4th as submitted.
I'll second.
and I think we take a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so we approve those minutes, and then get a motion to close the meeting.
So move.
And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the meeting is closed. Turn off your lights.